So in the circumstances where women in my community vanish or are murdered, people don't investigate them. In my community, um, um, we we're rebuilding some building that's on top of what used to be a boarding school and find hundreds of bodies of children who died there. Um, in my community, as we turn up debts that are owed to specific tribal entities, the government sits around and goes, well, that's a lot of money. We'll pay you pennies on the dollar for that. And currently in my community, there is now talk about maybe revoking our citizenship to the United States, to which I am curious where the hell they think they're going to send us. I don't know, maybe take a leaf out of the George Carlin joke and have us fill in the Bering Strait and walk back to Asia. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to know what's in the minds of these people right now. And I write about that sort of thing, but I write about it in different contexts. So recently I did a two-handed chapbook with a woman named Denise Lowe, who used to be the poet laureate of Kansas. And she and I both wrote about deer as a metaphor for Native women in particular. Or sort of contextualizing. I have one poem that I wrote because somebody had asked me at one of my event I was doing where I was talking about my beadwork, and they were like, so do you kill the deer and dress out the hide yourself? It's like, I can. But there aren't a whole lot of deer at large on Market Street every Thursday afternoon these days, you know. And I think it's about the being native. So there are people have two responses. They look at me and they go, you don't look native to me. And part of that is because they don't know what Southeastern Native women look like, right? And part of that is, I mean, it's all stereotyping, right? It helps erase if there's only a minimal window of potential identity that you're offering people, so that those people can go on with their day without continuing to pester me. But the other thing is like the incredible level of stereotyping that requires me to be a creature that does not live in today's world, you know. So I wrote this poem about, it starts out, you know, you know how those dear women are down on Market Street with their stoplight eyes, and it was a response to there aren't deer on Market Street, you know. You know, my life is very like anybody else's, really, except for the kind of incidental stuff that's just true of everybody else, where you'll have cultural stuff that's not, you know, whatever Anglo, right?
So if one is writing poetry rooted in one's identity or culture, which is juxtaposed with a mainstream that is averse to one's identity or culture, would that be considered political poetry?
I think it is political poetry. Now, some political poets make demands on the situation and some don't. I don't.
Do you make demands?
I don't really. I'm not writing to the mainstream anymore. So like, a lot of my work is about community, but I also do these things when I move to do them that somebody who's written about my work called poetry actions, where for a certain number of days I'll write about one topic. Right? So I think the first really formalized ones of those that I did was we were trying to get a statue retired in downtown San Francisco in the Civic Center because it was just incredibly stereotyping. And I had come to start to ignore it because it's been around my whole life, but
It was a statue of what?
it was a statue of a native man lying on his back, being loomed over by a Franciscan friar and a vaquero who had a lariat in one hand and a gun in the other, and then the friar is pointing at the native guy and holding up a cross. And we wanted to get it taken down, so we petitioned to get it taken down, and then we were told by the Arts Commission, yes, we will take that down. You're correct, that is not appropriate. Because I think, okay, so public art represents the current political temperature of a place, okay? And if it doesn't represent the current political temperature of a place, it should be not in the Civic Center, right? I mean, I'm not about tearing down anybody else's work. I think there should be a place to put it and where you can contextualize it. There are people who think it should be melted down and used for something else. I actually think it's interesting to know historically what was the thing, but unless it's sort of more specific than just the winning of the West, I think it's a waste of our space, and I think it doesn't speak to now. And San Franciscans generally felt that to be true. This guy whose family had lived in San Francisco for years wanted to leave it up and fought us and took it to court and did all kinds of things. And it ended up with me getting a death threat associated with that. Which frankly I found to be a compliment, because the sorts of people who issue death threats about political activity like that, that's not violent, generally don't give out literary awards. So I would have it in my resume if I could figure out where to put it.
Did you write any poems about this incident?
Yeah,
this experience?
I did. I have. There are a few of them out there. It's like he had threatened the guy who actually was at the event who was talking to me about it, threatened me for about half an hour straight about how he was gonna do specific damage to me, and I've written about that. And I, at the time, felt fairly secure in my ability to defend myself, and so I was like, look, if we could talk about this after the meeting, I will meet you in the parking lot. And he didn't show up, so I don't think that was supposed to be my reaction. I believe I was supposed to be intimidated. And it's possible to intimidate me, but just talking garbage doesn't work. So I wrote for 30 days about the statue and taking the statue down, and then the statue came down, and then later on I wrote for a series of days about murdered and missing Indigenous women.